Hi, I'm your Gemini friend. This video is going to be about Chiron in Aquarius and Chiron in the 11th house. And I do have a video that goes more deeply into Chiron and what it represents in your chart in the description, but Chiron is the wounded healer. This is a wound that we suffer from, a deep pain and vulnerability, but with this one especially, with the Aquarius and 11th house connection to community and like our role in society, this is very much representative of being like a healer for the masses, or healing your own sense of uniqueness and individuality for the sake of progress, for the sake of everybody. So I'll get into it more within the video, but whether you have your Chiron in Aquarius or you have your Chiron in the 11th house, Chiron in Aquarius expresses itself through Aquarius energy, like it's the embodiment, like it's playing a character. This is its personality. Chiron in the 11th deals specifically with the 11th house area of life, dealing with groups, friendships, and also long-term goals and the idea of like future and progress. But this video is going to be describing the general idea of this Uranus ruled energy. And Uranus has a very direct link to Chiron, as Chiron falls between Saturn and Uranus, and really links together those idea of Saturn, the material world, and our sense of like control and ability to use discipline to create something on a material level, but also our awareness of our limitations and restrictions. And I do offer personal natal chart readings and synastry readings if you're interested in that. But okay, let's get into this. So the 11th house and Aquarius, what these mostly represent is, it's an interesting idea of our own uniqueness, our eccentric, unconventional side. And yet, it is so much about our place in society, like where we fit in and our purpose long term, what we can do for the progress of people. So to have the focus on individuality, but within the whole, it's something to explain. So the way that I see this, our own uniqueness and what might be unconventional or non-traditional or considered to be weird out there, these are the ways that we really express our own individual energy, our soul's embodiment in this lifetime, who we're meant to be. The more we get in touch with that, the more we kind of fall into place. I mean, an easy example is like if everything is a puzzle made up of each of us as our unique component, we want to be the right shape in order to fit into the puzzle, but not in a conforming way. In a way that, like, say we're born with our natural shape, but then society kind of forces us to alter that. The expectations, the projections from other people, and ways that we feel that we are not fitting in. This is all about getting back to the core you, who you really are meant to be, in order to be in alignment with everything so that everything can flow. Because that flow is what is so incredibly important when it comes to Uranus. Because this is like our connection to everything. I see it as categorization, seeing where we fall into place, but in the way that creates more connection and more individuality. Like if you think of collective issues, these are actually represented through placements in our natal chart. Like for example, if you have your Chiron in Aquarius or in the 11th house, everyone else who has that is also collectively working on this same issue. And this is true for any placement. Like every other Gemini, we are all a part of the Gemini sun representation within the collective energy. And everything within our charts essentially shows us like the highest expression of each individual part of us. And it's kind of like a blueprint as to how to be your best self within this lifetime. So the more we can align with the highest expression of our placements, the more things to start to make sense, and the more we feel in touch with our own individuality. which in turn serves everyone. Because when we heal these placements that we're all connected to, we're not just healing it within ourselves. You're not just healing your Chiron in Aquarius or the 11th house. You're healing the collective wound. And we've had so many collective wounds that have happened so far that we have healed. Like, think of the progress of society and the direction that we're moving in and the things that we no longer do because we've realized, like, that's not humane anymore. It was never humane, but when we have things that we all kind of put energy into, when we heal it, when we transform our relationship with that idea, then we can actually like release that issue. So working on yourself, working on healing your Chiron placement and all of your placements helps more than just you. It helps everyone who's feeding into that collective idea. But for Chiron specifically, since this is the idea of wounding and suffering for the sake of understanding something better, understanding the connection that we have to other people and other people with this similar wound, you're able to be like a guide and a mentor and a healer of other people who align with the same wound. And the wound with this energy is typically in like your individual expression and those things that people might not have accepted about you. This can be your interests or your talents or skills, or it can even be linked to like your appearance, your physical body, things that can't be changed and things that are perceived by other people. These gifts and interests that you have are meant to be a part of you. You're meant to be expressing them, and you're meant to use these skills within your lifetime. But we can be shamed out of expressing these parts of ourselves, especially like early on in life, by your parents, by your friends. This can point to a lot of rejection within friendship and within group activities. And this can cause you to want to like detach from society altogether or to not want to have friends. But community and finding like a like-minded and supportive community is very important with this, because you are meant to be such a pioneer and such a mentor within the community. Your energy is very important for other people. So connecting with like-minded people, that's something that does need to be like healed and focused on if you find yourself wanting to stay away. Uranus is focused on a need for grounding, a need for finding a way to take this more ungrounded energy and channel it in a way that's actually going to be effective, because this can feel completely out of control. And that is a thing when it comes to Uranus energy. You don't want to try to control it, you want to channel it. It really can't be held back, it can't be stopped altogether. There's always a flow, there's always a current, if you think of it as electricity. And just that connection to like communication and like neurons and electrical impulses within the body, that flow is not something that we necessarily have conscious control over, and we're not really meant to. But this link to that flow and to the collective can create the sort of personality where like you're very ahead of the curve, ahead of trends, and your interests could be very far forward in the future, to where like you might have an idea, you might be doing something and you're a trendsetter. People might pick up on it, or someone picks up on it somewhere, and eventually everyone catches up, which can be very frustrating when it feels like your uniqueness has now been thwarted by everybody else doing it too. But just think of how you did it first and embrace the way that you are ahead of that current. You are meant to be a leader, and you are meant to have influence on a very wide scale. This is a really powerful placement to have. I mean, the way I see it, it's even more than just on this earth. This can be a link to extraterrestrials, to other consciousnesses outside of just humanity. And I have a whole thing I could get into, which I won't in this video, about AI and consciousness, but save that for another time because it's kind of controversial. But controversy is very important with this placement. You're actually meant to be controversial. Your own unique individual self and your ideas are likely not meant to be what people have been going along with. And this is such an important time for you, because as of right now, which is the end of October 2024, this is the last time that Pluto is going to be in Capricorn for a very long time. It's moving into Aquarius, and it's like all of these Capricorn traditional things that we've been doing for so long on a collective scale are changing and shifting into much more individualized and unique energy. So many things are shifting, especially this year. So many things are like breaking down the traditional side of it, and people are being forced to pave their own paths, and you are, again, a pioneer in that. But when it comes to belonging, when it comes to feeling like you are accepted within the group, that can be a big source of pain. Feeling like people don't get you, feeling like people are not going to accept you because you've had past experiences affirm that. It is so important to make sure that you are finding like-minded people, finding people who do actually resonate with your energy, because thinking of like things in terms of some people are right and some people are wrong isn't particularly helpful. If you think of it more as everyone has their own unique place in society and you can find the other people who are like-minded, and releasing that judgment, releasing the idea that you have to be on the right side of things. There are so many sides of things. And I think that all facets are important, even in the most divisive spaces. Just because someone disagrees with you, they're more like on that side of humanity. We're all contributing. And that's why your focus should be more on the people who you get along with rather than seeing enemies. It's better to focus on what you can do and what your own particular interests are when it comes especially to like progressive ideas. Of course, I believe personally that love and acceptance are very core to our beings. I mean, if you celebrate everybody's differences, you can get more in touch with celebrating your own differences. The way that you're different from the people around you should be celebrated. And the more that you can get in touch with expressing that side of yourself, the more things align, the more you'll find life making sense and people making sense. But this can definitely point to having friendship situations that mirror these wounds for you, whether they are similar type people who are also hurting in that way, or whether they might make that wound even deeper and more painful and really force you to look at it. Boundaries can be important here in recognizing which friendships are actually good and beneficial for you and which ones are actually preventing you from truly being yourself. But the best sort of group dynamics are where everyone's perspective is valid and wanted. And whether everyone agrees or not, like everyone has something useful to contribute. So kind of finding a balance between like not having an echo chamber type of environment, but also not being around people that make you feel bad about yourself. A very healthy, like embrace all sorts of people, having a healthy relationship with yourself and your boundaries and what you're looking for, what you know that you're trying to get out of relationships, and really examining that can be very helpful. But what can come with this is even like difficulty in seeing your own skill and talent and specialness. Like you could feel like you can see everything in such a broad way that focusing on what you yourself can actually do, you might just like fade away into that. Like, yeah, I'm good at this, but so are other people. Comparison is never a good idea, ever. But if people appreciate you, if people tell you you're good at something, take that and be like, thank you. I appreciate that you are affirming this part of me. Of course, Leo and the 5th house balance Aquarius and the 11th house. And Leo is all about our own individual self-expression, like as a unique person who is special and who knows how to have fun and express that like inner child part of us that is still imaginative, that is unlimited, and thinking in those terms. That's what the 5th house represents as well, like having fun on an individual level, exploring what makes you feel like you and what makes you feel like you belong. So looking at your 5th house, looking at where you have Leo, that can help you understand your own unique relationship with yourself and your self-expression, your creativity, because you're a highly creative person. Like I promise, with this placement, you have very fascinating parts of you that are definitely meant to contribute. But if you are thinking in such a vastly different way from the people around you, that's not something to hide, and that's not something to feel ashamed of. You just need to find the right outlet. And this is quite a public placement, so being within community and being within like social media or putting yourself out there in some way, that is how you find like-minded people. I mean, I have Saturn in the 11th, and like, how many people did I know in real life who cared about astrology? Not very many, but I'm finding more now. So if you put yourself out there and join a community, create a community, nothing is too niche. But this balance of finding community but not conforming within a community once you join it, that can be tough. Especially if you have previous wounds within communities and within friendship. This can even be friendship dynamics that are like, maybe you have a pattern of finding very critical friends, or friends who push your boundaries or make you feel like you're weird. Those are not the right people for you. The right people for you are going to understand your weird side, and they're gonna like it. They're gonna want to hear more because you have so much to share. You're likely very interested, like on a deep level, in whatever particular things interest you, and those interests should be fed into. And I totally understand how it can be kind of stressful to have so much to contribute to something that is very meaningful to you, and to put that out publicly. Just the idea of sharing something that means something so much to you, and like potentially getting backlash or having people disagree. Like I said before, controversy is kind of something to be embraced here. Maybe not like being outwardly controversial and trying to offend people, but don't shy away from saying something that's true to you if you think it's a valuable contribution, even if it might not be received well. Like I said, you're ahead of the curve. You're very forward thinking, and you're meant to be. And when it comes to approval, question that need for approval. Like, why do you feel like you need approval? Of course, we're all people and we're living within a society, and nobody really wants to be rejected. Everyone wants to feel like they fit in and feel like they have a place, because we are humans and we want to feel supported. We want to feel like we belong. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's completely natural. But if you don't feel like you belong, and that's a deep source of pain, it can hold you back from wanting to join any more communities. You could just be like, all right, I guess I'll just be alone since nobody likes me, nobody gets me. But these people that you're wanting approval from, do they deserve it? Do they deserve this desire from you, this willingness and effort that goes into conforming, that goes into pleasing them? Never change yourself for somebody. Your own unique energetic signature is kind of like a beacon for all of the other people who are going to align with that. But getting over that step of like preferring to be alone and not wanting to put yourself out there, that can be a very large hurdle to try to get over. And depending on just how strongly you have been like rejected or bullied, I completely understand hesitance, but you do owe it to yourself to find that affirmation from those people who are going to see you, because I promise you are the way you are for a reason. And I mean, just biologically, we see alienation, we see rejection as a threat to our survival, because throughout history it's been very important to have the support of a community. And nowadays we are able to isolate so much more easily. We don't even have to leave our homes if we don't want to. And with the advancement of technology, I mean, there's good and bad sides to it. So really examine your relationship with that sort of thing, with whether you're using technology to isolate or you're using technology to connect, because it's perfectly possible to make connections without leaving your home, you know? Your specific relationship with technology is actually very important here. And as I mentioned extraterrestrials before, and the word alienation, I mean, just if you have an interest in aliens, lean into that. Because Chiron and Aquarius specifically, in the book that I've been going through and using for this series, which information in the description, but she did specifically say that Chiron and Aquarius can represent like welcoming for those entities who are non-human. You know what I'm talking about. Remember, ahead of the curve, which is a good thing. But on a different note, this can also represent having a very strong connection to groups that are discriminated against and fighting inequality, progress for humanity in general, and specifically any groups that you identify with. That identification is for a purpose. If you think of like-minded people and those who have similar interests and ideas to you, when you are broadcasting that you are a part of these groups and that you are essentially holding a space for those other people, this is how progress is made. It's always controversial to go against traditions and social norms, but it's also completely necessary, now more than ever. So one way that you can really help harness this energy is by being realistic and grounded to really balance out your more forward-thinking energy. Because with the ungroundedness of this, and with the 11th house representing like our higher ideals and our aspirations on a large scale, our dreams for our lifetimes, these are big things. So putting more focus into what you can do tangibly right now, rather than getting lost in those more lofty ideas of like what could be, can help you actually create tangible results, actually create change that's going to be something you can actually like put effort into and work towards. Because this can also indicate having a really overwhelming idea of what you want to do and what you can do. So take care not to overwhelm yourself or to dream too big for the time being. Like, you can have your giant goals, but focus mostly on what you can do within this moment, what your next step can be in order to keep yourself more on that productive track. We are not stopping the flow, but we can manipulate the current towards those significant outlets. I mean, this is taking the discipline of Saturn, which is really just energy that we put into something in a concentrated enough way to actually get something done. But this can also indicate being a very cerebral individual, somebody who like lives in their mind and has so many racing thoughts. So get a notepad, write things down, and look at your 6th house and your relationship with like process and maintenance, taking care of things, doing things. Your ideal way, looking at the sign on the cusp of your 6th and any planets that you might have there, shows you the best way for you to go about creating a process for yourself and really utilizing that energy in a way that's going to be most productive. Because that grounding, it does take a lot of focus on the more earth side of things in order to channel it. But ultimately, you have a very strong need for freedom, for not feeling like you're being tied down. This is such a rebellious placement. It's meant to be. It's meant to rebel against norms, against the way that we have been doing things that has grown stagnant. Uranus exists to break up that stagnancy and to create new pathways, to make people look at what they've been doing and like rethink it. It can be a very disruptive and like kind of scary energy. It's like all of a sudden everything has changed. It's completely disrupted the natural flow, but it happens when it needs to. And that's why there's just like so much craziness right now with Pluto moving into Aquarius, going back and forth for a while. It's like we're dipping our toe into that, going back into Capricorn, but it's happening and it can't be stopped. So the more that you try to resist that flow, the worse things end up being. Resisting is the worst thing you can do with this energy because it needs to flow. It just can't be stopped, but you can always find a way to channel it in a productive way, in a way that's going to allow the flow so that it doesn't get backed up. And that's the most frustrating thing of all. And also, the thing that motivates me the most is to think like, what if you have a brilliant idea? And that's the nature of this energy, to just like have like shocks of brilliance, sudden realizations. Those ideas that you have, like, what if you have it and then you don't put it out there, and then like a few months later somebody else does and they are like known for that? That can be very discouraging, but it can also be incredibly encouraging to be that first one or to be involved in the beginning of that process. This is something that you're meant to do, but it's really exciting. It's meant to be exciting because this is progress. This is our direction. This is where we're headed. And the more you connect to the pain that you've felt and actively trying to heal it, the more you're able to be a healer within our progress and where you're resonating at. You are kind of in tune with, let's just say, like frequencies outside of this planet, beyond just Earth. Your individual belief system is important, but this is the way I see things. So if you're interested in things beyond this Earth, I definitely encourage that, whatever it may be. So thank you. I hope that this makes sense. Please feel free to share your experiences, anything. And I really, really appreciate you watching. I appreciate your contribution to this community. And I really encourage you to lean into those things that feel most important to you, that feel like they are the future. So thank you. I love you. Bye.